Okay, June, I just heard her say we're recording.
Oh, our recording's live?
We're
Okay,
good.
awesome. Great. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the April meeting of the curriculum subcommittee. Dr. Henkel, if you'd like to walk us through our purpose and our norms, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Kingsley. Hello, everyone. Today, as she said, is April 9th, and our curriculum subcommittee meeting is focused around collaboration between our Board of Education stakeholders and our school-based leadership. And the purpose of our meeting is to discuss all aspects of curriculum, instruction, school culture, and climate within the Weston Public Schools. We do ask that if you can, keep your cameras on at all times. That would be greatly appreciated so we can see your beautiful faces. And if you're not speaking, if you could remain muted unless you are either presenting or have questions. We also want to make sure that when we go through our agenda, we are present and engaged. And when we're asking questions, we're always seeking to understand, and we're trying to keep our discussion and comments on topic according to the agenda that we pre-prepare. So our first agenda item is the meeting minutes approval from last time, I think, right, Bernie?
Yep, that sounds right. David, did you have any comments or feedback on the minutes? Are we good to approve?
Yeah, looks good.
You want to make a motion?
Sure. I got my board book up here. Let's see here. Move that the curriculum committee approve the March 2024 meeting minutes.
Awesome. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. So passes unanimously. Thank you.
Excellent. So we do have one formal presentation today. A few months ago, I can't remember exactly which month it was, but we have started exploring new core curricular resources in the area of mathematics to support some of our tri-state feedback from our review that we had a year ago. And Erin Barlow, the curriculum and instruction leader from Weston Intermediate School, and Kelly Del Vecchio from Hurlbut Elementary School, our other CIL, came and presented an overview of the pilot program, the different aspects of research that they're doing, and those teachers that are participating in this experience. And so I did ask them to come tonight or this afternoon to provide an update around that pilot program and where we currently are. We're not at the point where we're making our decision yet, but it was important to give them some opportunity to talk about the work that they've been doing. And we also asked Riley Rappaport, who is our secondary CIL, to join them as well and kind of talk about if there's any questions related to that math trajectory as we think about students transitioning from 5th to 6th grade as well. So we will then move on into some curricular updates, curriculum and instruction updates at the remaining part of the agenda. We do have a small presentation related to the Chinese program today, and that will be led by Principal Canetta and Assistant Principal Matthew Phillip, and we'll give them the floor at that point. And then we're going to kind of have an open dialogue around some other curriculum and instruction topics that are happening throughout the district, and give you some opportunities to ask some questions. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and present their presentation. I'm going to ask Erin and Kelly to take the floor, and I think you're all set.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to get us started. Tina, are you putting up the slideshow thing? Okay, thank you. So we are here to give you like a little update on where we are now. Like Tina said, we haven't gotten through everything yet that we're ready to make any decisions, but we have gotten the ball rolling. So we could go all the way to slide 20, please. So we are started with our first resource was Eureka Math Squared. And we started this program with a virtual training from Eureka representation. You can go to the next slide. We started it with a virtual training, and it was Erin and myself, as well as the 3 5th grade teachers. So that was a great introduction, from the source of training us for this program. From that, Erin and I were able to train the 1st through 4th grade teachers with what we have learned, train enough with doing the pilot piece, focusing on what they would need to know now. It definitely would not be a full training, but it was enough to get us started with the pilot. And as you can see, each grade did a different chapter. These chapters were picked to fit into the pacing guide and be the least disruptive, and ensure a smooth, scope and sequence for everybody. So 2nd through 5th have finished or just about to finish. I think 5th grade is just about to finish, have finished their 1st unit. And 1st grade isn't starting theirs until the 3rd marking period. They're doing length. So they're going to jump in May to do length for theirs. Go ahead, please. And the materials and lesson structure. So we thought this would be helpful just to see of what Eureka Math entails as far as materials and the lesson structure. The materials are listed there, and the Learn book is really a more traditional workbook for students to use. The Apply book is interesting. It's a 2nd workbook that the students have. It is filled with a wealth of information from all the home letters for families. It has reteaching pages in it. It has extra practice problems. And 3rd through 5th grade used it as homework. So that fit really well for them to continue their learning and use it as homework. The 1st and 2nd grade, we kept ours, or 2nd grade, we kept ours at school. We just sent home the family letters, just because the homework, we don't send home that piece of homework for them, but we utilized it in class. So it was also very helpful for using it in small groups or after the lesson. So whether it is done at home or at school, it was helpful. Teacher's manual had tons of background information. It really made a connection to the standards. It had a very straightforward lesson guide. It offered insight into advancing the thinking of those students who are struggling. And it also offered some challenge information as well. The online component was very well received by the teachers. It was very user friendly. We were able to access everything that the teachers would need in one place. And they also had access to all the grade levels. So it was helpful to see where they've come from and where they're going, because with a pilot, there might be something that's building on something that they would have done if they were in the program. But it houses everything in this one spot. Sorry, it's dismissal time. And then it had formative and summative assessments. So every lesson ended with an exit ticket. So there was a daily formative assessment. There were topic check-ins. There are quizzes for 3rd through 5th grade. And then there's end of unit assessment. So it offered a lot of formative and summative assessments. The lesson structures are built on every day as a lesson. And it started with fluency warm-ups, and fluency in math is something that we've all been working on. And it's really great that it's part of the lesson. And then the way they structure their lessons is a launch, a learn, and a land. So the launch is like the start of the lesson, the mini lesson. The learning time is various activities and independent work and group work, and then the land kind of pulls everybody back together to synthesize what's been happening. They have practice pages as well in their workbook. So it has components wise, everything that we were kind of looking for, that we kind of checked all those boxes there. And then we have done some surveys. So we reached out to all the students who participated in this pilot. 3rd through 5th did theirs on a Google form, and 1st and 2nd, or 2nd so far, did mine with me kind of reading it to them and them doing it on paper. And it was very, very good information to receive. So you could read, there's some quotes there from students. That purple writing is in that first image, and that's from the Apply book. So that's like a reteaching that students found that it was helpful for them to use as a student and, to have at home. The mini lessons, they did sometimes feel long, and we worked through that. And, we talked about being our first time and, what we might look at. And then in 2nd grade, where we did our multiplication, they really enjoyed building the arrays, doing lots of concrete representation, pictorial representation. and a good connection there. So the students gave a lot of great feedback that, we will use, and then we'll move forward with getting our teacher feedback and doing the same thing again for illustrative. So that kind of summarizes where we are with Eureka. We had a great start. We've worked through it and we're wrapping that up and on to illustrative math. So I don't know if you want to do questions or if you want to just let Erin go on to illustrative first.
We could take a pause here. I just love that we're involving students in this decision-making process, more so than maybe in some other decision-making process. We missed that opportunity for literacy a little bit, and I love that you and Erin are really trying to gather some student voice in this experience, which, as you can tell, I know these are only 3 examples, but they will tell you if you ask, and this really helps give a different perspective than maybe from an adult. So that's really exciting. David or Bernie, do you have any questions for Kelly about the first pilot program, the first tool that we've been exploring?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what you said about the student voice. We're so interested in student buy-in and finding those things that appeal to them. So that's such a key piece. If they're invested in it, then I can see it being so much more successful. So it looks like overall, even just from this little clip, that the feedback is in general very positive from the kids. And, with tweaking, with more practice, that, it can be worked with. So awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'll jump in here.
Yeah,
So
I have one quick
about
question. I couldn't find my unmute button quick enough. For the pilot program, were you able to do any kind of tracking with the pilot program versus the program that's being kind of, I guess, sunset or retired, to see, like, point in time, is this program, based on your feedback, it's well received by the students, but from a achievement perspective, or a challenge in how we're challenging our students, like if you put the 2 programs side by side, is this about the same, a little bit more difficult, or a little bit less difficult?
Either one of you can speak to that a little bit regarding, I think, standards alignment as well as activity focused, and what does that engagement look like? The opportunities to kind of dive into some of the conceptual pieces too might be something you want to speak to.
Yeah, so it was pretty natural for us to be thinking about what everyone was doing in their other classrooms with Math in Focus, especially for the teacher and I who have lived the Math in Focus. It was just natural to be like, oh, this is similar. Oh, this is different. It was a natural thing to do, just to compare it on the day-to-day. The standards-based piece was very strong through this resource. It hit the grade level standards, and it built a solid conceptual foundation for the standards. And it did offer opportunities for those challenging students. This one, was multiplication. So we had students that said, I know multiplication, I know 12 times 12 but they did so much communicating and explaining their thinking and working with their peers that I did not feel like they felt that they were not challenged. I feel like they enjoyed the communication piece, and they had something to learn as well. So it did offer that piece of that challenge work. The program itself does not offer an enrichment book, or it gives every now and then in the lessons, it will give a challenge suggestion. So that might be something that we would be looking at our other resources with exemplars, and that would fit a nice match with that. And the Math in Focus, we did give our kids the Math in Focus assessment too, just to see how they did, and they did great. So that was positive. I don't know, Erin, if you have anything to add to that.
I think one of the things that I would add is that our teachers who piloted Eureka did so around the same time as their colleagues using the Math in Focus, those who chose not to do the pilot, for me in grades 3 and 5 or 3 and 4, because that was voluntary. And one thing that they found was that they were still in their unit in Eureka, while the other teachers in Math and Focused had finished, sometimes up to almost a week and a half. So a lot of the teachers commented on, sorry, dismissal here too, commented on how much more in depth they felt the students and the resource went into learning the topic. So that seemed very positive. But I do think, David, to your question, we probably are going to tease more of that out once we do the survey with the teachers. And that for me isn't going to be until after break. Because my grade 5 is still in and still finishing Eureka. And before I survey them, I would like them to do the end of unit assessment so that they can comment on that piece as well. And I think that's when we'll start to tease out some of that information a little bit better.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. So about, I guess, 3 weeks ago now, we did conduct the illustrative mathematics training. This was training that actually Kelly and I were able to do with the grade levels. So we did 3 2-hour sessions. We did one for grade 5, and then grades 4 and 2, and then 3 and 1. And when we did that training, we looked at all these different areas that you see on the screen. We talked about the design of the program, where illustrative kind of got their start. We talked about the now K to high school trajectory that they have created. We really dove into the design of the unit. IM talks very strongly about the story of mathematics that they tell. It's not like a story like a book and characters and all that, but the way that they unravel the standards throughout the year and the progression that it creates. So we talked about that. We went into the design of a lesson, and we even took about 30 to 40 minutes of the 2 hours. And Kelly and I were able to actually model a lesson for the teachers so that they would understand the different components and know what the expectation was. We also chose a lesson that was further into the unit so that we could talk about what comes before and what comes after. So we were very strategic in choosing the lesson that we did. And then we talked about the assessments. IM has the formative and the summative as well. Every day there are exit tickets, which they call cool downs for the students to do. At the end of each section, they have what they call a section check-in. That could be used formatively, and then they have their summative at the end. So we looked at each of those and how those develop throughout the unit as well. And for us teachers, some teachers have started now. Grade 4 has started and is in using IM. My grade 3 teachers have started and they're using it also. And grade 5 for me will be starting after break. In our next steps, the teachers will complete the IM units. We are set to wrap this up probably around that first to second week of May. Again, we will go back and conduct more of the student and teacher surveys around IM to help gather our feedback, and then use that information to guide our decision-making process.
Great. Thank you, Erin and Kelly. That was awesome. We just wanted to take this opportunity to give you an update. They are trucking along, and as you know, it takes time to unpack specific units and make sure that teachers feel prepared to actually implement with integrity the different programs and the different units of study. They've been doing a really great job to utilize their time through common planning time to ask questions and dive deeper into a lesson and the resources that the lesson provides so that they can truly understand all the different aspects that the different core resources provide. So I can't wait to see what the teachers and the students' response is when they participate in that last pilot with a different program. David, Bernie, do you have any final questions regarding the status of the pilot so far, or anything for Patty too? I know Patty Falber is here, and I think I see Laura as well.
Sure. Just a quick question. So at the end of May-ish, you'll be able to have most of your data in at that point. And then is the goal to roll out the new program for September with the students in all of the grades or in some of the grades?
Yeah, great question. So we will have a lot more data, both summative and formative, by the end of May, we hope, so that we can, the school can provide me with their final kind of proposal for which resource to adopt for next year. We are still in the discussion phases regarding which grade levels that we want to write curriculum towards over the summer, and then what that implementation will look like. We know that grades 3 and 4 are currently going to be adopting American Reading Company. And so grades 3 and 4 right now, we are going to put on pause for next year for sure. And so that's an open kind of discussion regarding what happens in grades 1 and 2. But 5th grade will be transitioning to a new core resource indefinitely next year. That is definitely that grade level. And so we know we're going to write curriculum over the summer around that. And I've been leaning on Kelly and Laura to, gather a pulse for our grade 1 and 2 teachers to see where they feel they fit into this scaffolded implementation plan. Good question.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Riley, I wanted to give you an opportunity also if you wanted to add anything. 6th grade, as a reminder, last year, actually 2 years ago now, when I jumped on board, 6th grade had started to explore the illustrative math curriculum in 6th grade. They were using a tech tool that was kind of overlapping on top of the core resource. And over the course of the year, we recognized that we really didn't need to spend the money on that tech app in order to implement the curriculum with integrity. And so this year, we've been focusing more on utilizing the resources that are available through open source. We did purchase teacher guides and student guides this year in grade 6, and we've already budgeted for next year as we transition to 7th and 8th grade and Algebra 1. And Riley's been leading that work in the middle school. And so I don't know, Riley, if you wanted to talk at all about some of the experiences as the students enter 6th grade and beyond.
Yeah, so we're finding it's been very successful in 6th grade so far with just being in classrooms and hearing the student discussions around the concept-based learning. And just it was very similar to our 6th grade teachers say what they had in the open resource through Desmos last year. It was very similar, the questioning strategies and getting students to talk. I actually just did a coaching cycle with one of the 6th grade teachers where we focused on number talks. And by the end of it, we did 3 of them. And at the 3rd one, the kids were so excited to start the number talk. They were like, we can't wait to start talking about the numbers and like how we're solving these in our heads and all of this stuff. So it was cool to see even some of the kids who don't normally participate being willing to share their strategies for how they thought about the math. So we're going to do similar coaching cycles with 7th and 8th grade next year as they start using IM, as well as Algebra 1 at the high school. And then we just piloted a unit in IM for 7th and 8th grade. And again, some of it I think is teacher and student. It's a different style of teaching. So I think them having me there to talk them through some of the strategies that are there, like how is a number talk routine supposed to happen in the classroom, was really helpful. And it went really smoothly for the 8th grade and 7th grade teachers. So it's cool. And I think they're now starting to get more excited about it as well.
I'm so happy you provided that example, because I think through all of this work, our goal is to really understand how the students feel in a math classroom. Because as you heard Riley say, a lot of times, especially as students get older, they walk into the math classroom and their anxiety level increases significantly. There's a lot of research around how students see themselves as mathematicians when they get, especially when they get older. And that comes into play with confidence building and the opportunities for them to really dive into concepts through discourse and through problem solving and critical thinking in maybe a different way that they've been exposed to over the years. Gone are their days are like the teacher standing in front of the room and we're just giving you the information, you're taking down notes and you need to like regurgitate it later. In a problem-based environment that the secondary classrooms are really working towards, students are actively involved in the thinking process and the breaking apart of concepts and skills and putting them back together to make sense of the mathematics. And that takes time, and it's a very difficult kind of format of delivery. And so it's really great that Raleigh is there supporting them through this whole process. So thanks for adding that. Any other questions before we close on this agenda item?
No, I just wanted to comment on all the great work that the curriculum leaders are doing. I know we talk a lot about what are the SILs doing and how do you see the execution, but the amount of ways you're able to facilitate collaboration amongst the teachers and to get into the classroom and help really shines, particularly with an example like this. You're accomplishing so much in such a short time. Without somebody in that position, we wouldn't be able to do. So thank you so much. And it really highlights how important your role is for all the things we're doing in school. So thank you.
Ditto. Okay, we're going to go back to the agenda. Thank you, ladies. You're welcome to stay on. I know we're going to move into the first curriculum and instruction update, and the first one is about the solar eclipse. So that's nice transition because Erin and Kelly also, along with Beth Lancaster, I think she's here, were the leaders to support the solar eclipse events that happened yesterday. It was so exciting. Beth and Erin and Kelly, since you're here, would you like to, Beth, I'll let you start if you don't mind, talk a little bit about what you three coordinated throughout the district and maybe some of what your experience was like yesterday, if you don't mind.
Not at all. Happy to speak to the amazing collaboration that happened across the district yesterday. It was really a phenomenal event, and we are so excited that we were able to provide that special programming for our students. I think we really created an opportunity for them to make core memories and really remember this event. Erin, Kelly, and I started collaborating about 2 months ago on how we might approach bringing the eclipse into the classrooms. And then Dr. Henkel was so willing to purchase the eclipse classes for everyone, and administration was on board from the get-go with, yes, let's make this an amazing event for all of our students. So I can't thank my collaborators and then also the administration for the support. But it started out with Kelly creating a spreadsheet of resources K-12. So Kelly, I don't know if you want to speak to that and how we rolled that out.
Sure. So we did it by school for grade level wise, and then we also broke it down into every subject area and where the eclipse event could fit into all different subject areas. And, it's with teaching, you didn't want to make it like another thing that everybody had to do. But the teachers, they embraced it and it was part of their day. Whether it was talking about time or, listening to a story or reading their Scholastic News for social studies and crafts, of course. But the resources were there and appropriate for grade levels and all different subject areas. So that really offered some consistency. A lot of resources too were on there as far as, live streaming, and with the safety, our middle school and high school kids did a safety videos. So those were great. We had it was a lot of pieces and kind of fit wherever it fit for everybody. So it was nice.
Laura,
I also
Patty,
wanted to,
Megan.
I just wanted to also thank that our curriculum and instruction leaders in other content areas also curated resources specific to their discipline. So it really was a collaborative event.
Yeah, I just wanted to also acknowledge the collaboration around it was just fantastic. And our teachers, really took it to the next level. Kelly gave such great resources for them. And I watched all, the week before as they built up to it and built the excitement. And then, of course, when we went out, it was just so carefully organized and orchestrated. And the teachers were very much in tune with the needs of the youngest children and how to make sure they were safe and really enjoying it. And on the way back in, I heard students would say to me like, "Oh, that was so cool. I want to be a scientist now." And, that's just such a powerful experience for them to get that excited about science and to think about it as well. This is something, I want to be a part of. So we're very happy with how it went.
Yeah, I can echo what Laura said. It was great here yesterday at WIST, and we had divided them up into different grade levels, and Erin did a great job. We every morning on the morning announcements, we had more safety tips. We had more excitement building about the eclipse, and the kids took it very seriously. They were so good about the glasses, and they were it was so cool. We kept, we look and then we look again, and we stopped looking and we look at, even like when we were at dismissal time, we were looking at the eclipse, and they were just so enamored with it. And then we have this beautiful drawing from the high school, like a backdrop in our hallway. So that sort of added to the fun of the day. So it was a great event. It was really good.
And we focus a lot on getting the standards into school and how important that is for, benchmarks and testing. But we forget sometimes how important it is to create that lifelong love of learning and to find the joy in those things. Most students won't remember what happened on any particular day and any particular class in their lifetime. But creating this kind of fanfare and all that work is something that they definitely will remember and be one of those special moments. So thank you.
I think it was a testament to the engagement too. I think we were a little nervous that our high schoolers, maybe wouldn't hang around, and they did. They really, with all of the efforts and work from everybody that went in to create like such a feeling around it, that they wanted to stay and hang out and watch it together. So it was pretty cool to see.
I would also add too that it was a stream all day in the main office in the high school of kids that had a free last period coming in asking if we had a pair of glasses they could take and take home. They were really into it. It's cool.
We also had some high school volunteers come down to help our little guys. So we had more hands on deck than all hands on deck. And I actually felt like they saw so much joy in the kids, and they were like, "It's so cute to see them. They're so excited." And they're like, "I should come down here more often." And I was like, "Well, you can." We're on the same campus. So it was very nice for the connection of everybody.
Thank you guys so much for putting that together. It was definitely worth it. I was trying to pull up the picture with the solar eclipse backdrop and Beth and the other teachers standing in front of it, but it's not loading fast enough. So if I get to it, I'll put it on the backdrop. So yeah, it was really cool to see the art department come together. The library media specialist, they had a Lego kits that the kids actually put together from the lower school all the way to the upper schools. And I don't know if anybody got to play with it, but it was actually like a crank motor Lego kit where it actually showed the moon revolving around and passing in front of the sun. So it was so cool to kind of visualize for the kids to actually see what the eclipse looks like. So anyway, so cool. Next up on the agenda is just a quick state testing update. I want to remind everyone that the Smarter Balanced and the NGSS testing will start the week after we come back from break. You'll get communication from the different schools with more details around that. But we are heading into that last home stretch of the school year, which is a lot of the state mandated assessments. We also wanted to let you know that during the month of this past month and May, we've already started our planning and training for grades 3 through 5 in the American Reading Company and the new Dibbles 8 assessment. So we're already have a plan in place between Principal Falber and the CIL, Alex Bluestein, at the intermediate school to prepare for next school year as we make that adoption for grades 3 through 5 in literacy. And we've been using and planning ahead so that we can actually use some of our professional learning time to expose the teachers to the resources and get some of those teacher guides in their hands before they even leave for summer. So that's really exciting and alleviating some of the anxiety as we move into next year. And then before I hand it over to Megan and Matt, the last bullet item around curriculum and instruction that you all should be aware as a board is that the state has adopted, as they have adopted in many ways, a new teacher, educator, and leader evaluation model. And all districts in the state of Connecticut are required to update their evaluation frameworks and their evaluation systems. We currently have a ad hoc committee working on the updated versions of the leader and the educator evaluation plans. We're going to be in the process of making presentations to our staff and our administrators around those updates, gathering feedback, and asking for a vote from our unions, which will then rely on you all as board members to also review those documents. And we are going to seek a vote in June to kind of approve the idea of moving forward into a pilot for next year. So this will not be a vote to approve the final plan. It's going to be a vote to approve a year-long pilot experience based on the framework that we develop. So more to come on that, but I wanted to let you know that that's currently in the works. And it has been in the works for the last couple of months, but we finally have something that we're ready to probably present to our unions and also gather feedback before it goes in front of the full board in June. All right, and so our final topic this afternoon is related to our Chinese program at the high school. And we have a couple slides that Principal Canetta and Assistant Principal Phillip are going to talk to and speak to, and then we can open it up for some questions moving forward before we close today's conversation. Erin, Kelly, and Beth, you're welcome to stay for sure, but thank you so much for joining and providing us with that awesome update. So I'm going to share my screen, and Megan, I'll let you take over.
Thanks, Tina. So I want to preface this conversation by just saying that our goal is always to preserve, courses and programs in the best interests of our students and to really reflect, I guess, the wants and needs of our students, right? And often they will drive some of the decisions that we make. So we had conversations last year based on our enrollment in our Chinese 1 course here at the high school. We had 11 students request the course last year, and we made the determination at that point coming into this year that we would not be running Chinese 1. So we were having the conversations, kind of wondering what we were going to do with Chinese. We made the determination when we were working on our program of studies this year at the high school, working with Mercedes, that we were going to give it another try. We spoke specifically to the Chinese program at our 8th grade parent and student night that we had back in February. We encouraged families to enroll in students. 8th graders were there too. We encouraged them to give Chinese a chance. We explained that we had not run it the year before due to low enrollment, and this could quite possibly be, a future indicator of the success of the program. So as we head into the 24-25 school year, we have 15 requests. So while it is a couple more, maybe go to the next slide. Well, that one. So while it is a couple more than we had the previous year, we also recognize that every year when we actually build our schedule, Chinese 1 with this level of enrollment would be what we call a singleton. So that means it runs one period, one time in our schedule. So when we go to build our schedule, we also recognize that in building the schedule, there are students, just by kind of the nature of scheduling, Chinese would not fit in their course requests in their scheduling. So we typically will lose somewhere from 1 to 3 students just as a matter of the master schedule. So if you want to go to the next slide, Tina, too. So we also did, Julie Gavoni really helped with this too. We did some historical fact finding to determine kind of the overall future of our Chinese program. So if you look at, like, if we take 10, 11, this is 2010, 2011, for example, we started Chinese 1 with 25 students in their 9th grade year. And by the time that they were seniors, you can see there, we had 8 students in the program. So as time has gone on, we really see that we're around that 51% rate of attrition over the years. And we are really looking at the sustainability and viability of the Chinese program long term. So we have made the determination that with 15 course requests, understanding the impact just the building of our master schedule as a singleton class could also have on that enrollment, we have determined that Chinese 1 would not be a course that we would run again this year. So that leads us to the question of the Chinese program overall, because what we always want to create is a program of studies that really reflects the interests of students. So we're kind of evaluating, is Chinese the language that students are most interested in at this time, day, age that we're in. And really, we're looking at sunsetting our Chinese program potentially at Weston High School.
And Megan, say again the timeline for sunsetting, because we have students that are currently in the program. And so can you talk a little bit specifically about that process?
So we have students that will continue to be enrolled in our Chinese 3 and our Chinese 4 program. So we will finish out that sequence for the students who originally invested their time and energy and efforts in Chinese from freshman, sophomore year. We want to provide them those opportunities to complete their sequence. So we would really be looking at, over the next 2 years, continuing to reduce the opportunities for the upper level study over time. So we want to make sure that we're setting students up for success. And we also want to make sure that we're not then running a course that potentially could have 12 kids in it their freshman year, the numbers decrease over time, and then we are not running the courses kind of to help to support them in completing that Chinese program.
And are you seeing an increase in enrollment or kind of interest in the other languages that we currently offer?
We have a thriving Latin program. We do, right, Mr. Phillip?
Yeah, actually, it looks like that might tick up a little bit.
Yeah. And of course, Spanish language and French. And I think we do over, the next year, as we're really looking at the future of world language and working with Mercedes and working with the teachers, determine the needs of the students and the interests of the students. And that could involve surveying students. We know that there are other language programs that schools in the area are running. And, is that something that we want to consider going forward? But we want to take our time with that. I think that student input and student voice is really important, so that we make sure as we kind of onboard new language or the possibility of a new language program, that we really want to make sure that we're being responsive to student interests as well.
Makes sense.
So
Bernie and
these
David,
decisions don't come easy. That's the other thing I want to say, right? Like, we want to be really thoughtful. No one ever wants to see, the decline of a program. And at the same time, we're just not getting the enrollment that we historically have had.
I'm just going to go with an assumption, but I would assume that most of the kids who are moving from middle school to high school are continuing the languages they started in middle school. Would that be a pretty safe bet to say? So in terms of the Chinese program, if we did have a district interest in continuing it, it might make sense to continue this conversation at the middle school level to see whether or not that should be something offered there. Because if students are continuing languages and choose it in 6th grade, they might be more inclined to continue it in high school at a later time.
Right. So, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but you're talking about a kind of a major programmatic investment, right? You're talking about additional staff, you're talking about additional resources, and it is a complex language, right? The language is complex. Visually, it is also complex, right? So, yeah, I can tell you for the enrollment going into this year, I believe we had 3 9th graders who were interested in starting it as 10th graders, and 12 who were 8th graders that were choosing Chinese. Other than that, students were really, or Latin is you begin Latin at the high school. So we just have a far greater interest in the Latin sequence than we do in Chinese at this point in time.
And given the complexities of learning Chinese, everything you said with the characters and everything like that, to what degree of fluency, I don't even know if that's the word we want to use, are students getting to if they were to start in freshman year and continue the sequence? Is it quasi comparable to, I don't know, in other languages that you have such a leg up, even just being able to use non-Chinese characters. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if students, even if we held the language for a second and kept students in it, are they really getting enough out of it in their time here that they're able to use it and continue it in college? Or is it more of a introduction to Chinese for more of a general purpose as opposed to the goal of fluency?
I think the easy answer is that it depends on the student and their level of investment. Right? We have some students who are really invested in learning the Chinese language, and they're also invested in the culture, and they're also doing outside programs to supplement. Like they have a keen interest maybe in like international business and an interest in Chinese business. They have their sights set on that for a college program potentially. So they're investing in that in other ways. And then we have other students, who are really interested kind of culturally and want that experience. And maybe it's more of like a survey type of experience to prep them for post-secondary experiences in the language.
Makes sense.
It's a very challenging language. Yeah. I know that just coming from experience where we had a lot of options in languages, we actually shifted from Chinese to Japanese because Japanese is just supposedly, I don't know, but what the teachers were telling us was that it's just an easier language to teach and the students pick it up easier. So I wonder if that has anything to do with it as well when Megan's talking about complete immersion and a commitment to truly dive into a language at that level, at that complexity, to become more fluent in it is definitely a commitment from the student.
If there is a student that is a real driving interest to learn a language that's not offered through Weston, are there any opportunities either online or through other high schools around where they could take that class if it's Chinese and we decide to go in the direction of not offering it?
There are a number of different world language programs. I can't speak to them off the top of my head. Students have often taken type of immersion programs at Middlebury College, for example. That's kind of their specialty up there. And then there are online courses, of course, that are available that we would look to Mercedes to kind of inform where we might recommend students to go. Of course, at their own program and their own selection. But there are opportunities available if this is something that a student wants to pursue, outside of school.
Would those kind of classes have any chance of counting for Weston credit? Is there an approved process, or this would just be facilitating them doing something in addition beyond just their high school requirements?
I think that is part of a larger conversation. If we are talking about sunsetting a language program and how we would want to support kids at this point, it would not count for if we are no longer offering the program, it would not count towards graduation credit. But that would be part of a larger conversation as we continue to, evaluate the needs of kids.
Thank you.
Matt, did you want to
I
add
don't-
anything?
I was just going to say that I remember about a year and a half ago, I think, Megan, you were on board, and we were talking about retiring or sunsetting another program. I think this is healthy. I think that the ability for us to look at enrollment of a particular program, whether it's a language or whatever it is, and look at where the students want to be, and we can make these kinds of changes. I think it's healthy to sort of adapt to what the trends are showing. So for me, it's good to hear that, not that necessarily that we've sunsetted Chinese, but that we did it because of a low enrollment, and then we can retune to what the students actually want. And I presume this can be revisited. So if there's an interest once again in Chinese, it's not gone. It's just not offered at the moment. So I think this type of change is really healthy for the district.
Yeah, and I think David, and Bernie, but Megan and her team are constantly reevaluating program of studies, looking at numbers, looking at enrollment, understanding the requests and the interests of students, and balancing that with a really focused program of study in a small district. To your point, that's just the nature of Weston, right? We can't have 15 pathways in world language. It's just we're not big enough for it.
I was going to say too, like we're also 10% smaller than we were, right? When we were 800, a school of 800 a few years back, and now we're 720 something. So, these things might have to happen.
It's just smart. It really is. And that's why I said, I think Megan, I believe it was last year, we had a conversation and there was a program. It's a smart way to take limited resources and evaluate them and adapt based on what our students are looking for. And we revisit, right? I mean, nothing is set in stone, never. So I personally think in a small district, it's great that Megan and Tina and the rest of you do the evaluation, look for places that we can better serve the students, make that change, and then we revisit it in the future.
Yeah, better for the students too. It's better to do less really, really well than to just provide a survey of options that we're not able to see through to the end that we want to get to the excellence that we strive for. So,
Agreed.
Excellent. Okay, thank you guys. That's great. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know that they have other, they've been reviewing and vetting other programs as well. This was one that we really felt we wanted to bring forth to have a conversation because it would impact the program of studies moving into next year, and or not next year, but the year after, I should say. And we wanted to keep you in the loop. So the last item on the agenda, let me just quickly share, is that we will be preparing, or we've already started preparing for our June in-person academic year in review. That is going to be in person. You've already received an invite. It will be at the Intermediate School of Room 118. I'll work with Bernie and David and the principals to establish a May agenda. And kind of think about strategically what are some of those updates that would make sense on May's agenda. But some of the larger things that are happening down the road would be the academic year in review. That's a very long meeting. That's why we wanted to make sure that we had enough time. And so that meeting has been extended. The time has been adjusted slightly to include, I think last year was about a 2-hour meeting. So that's what we have shifted to for this year as well. And being in person, we wanted to make sure that we accommodated those that will be present so that they have enough time to review some of their great work that they've done this past school year. Okay. Thank you all for coming. That concludes my list of agenda topics.
sure. David, do you have anything else to add before we adjourn? or anybody
Yeah.
else? All right. Well, then enjoy the rest of the day. It's beautiful outside. Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
See you
Thank
next
you all.
month.
Bye.
Bye.